So we are now moving into a turn, and this is where the strong in business will survive, right? They will use these 6 elements to increase their position. Hi, this is Brian Icenhower, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the 6 key elements to surviving a recession. And I want to clarify that, at the time of this coronavirus crisis, it does appear the United States, if not the global economy, is moving into an economic recession. I do want to clarify that it's probably very different than the housing market. The housing market actually, was going gangbusters with prices moving up very, very quickly and low housing inventory when this crisis struck. And now we're seeing less homes go on the market, so it's actually keeping supply down because more people are wanting to wait until after this crisis has ended to list their home. So because there's a lower supply, and there's still high demand to buy houses, we're actually seeing prices hold up, if not increase, in most areas of North America. Yet the country's still going into recession. We still have a lot of demand dropping despite the low inventory because people are losing their jobs. People have economic uncertainty. We've got stock markets crashing, governments putting in economic stimulus and lowering rates and et cetera, to try to slow this recession. But at some point we have to acknowledge, as long as businesses continue to stay shut and people are forced to stay at home, we are moving towards a recession. But we've been through these before, and we'll make it before. I mean, in 2008, we had a very, they call it the Great Recession, right? We had short recessions after the dot-com bust, and 9/11. Late 1989 went through a pretty good recession. And those are things I've had the chance of actually practicing real estate through those and being in the industry, kind of dating myself. And this one's very similar in a lot of ways, except that A, we're confined to our houses, and B, it does appear that there's going to be an end date on it, like this virus will run its course. So that does help us realize we're just kind of getting through it for the short term. But there are 6 key elements, regardless, that we need to be aware of when we go through recessions, and it's something we at Icenhower Coaching and Consulting are working with. With all of our clients. We have so many clients that are broker owners, they run real estate teams, or they manage their own sole real estate business, or they run mortgage companies or title companies, lots of different clients at different levels. And this applies to all of you in business, to be honest with you. We have 6 key elements. And I like to start off by using, it's kind of an old business analogy, but it's the analogy of a race car, right? When you're driving a race car, you drive around a track and it's a straightaway, and then you go to a turn and you come back and come down another straightaway. And then you go around a turn and then another straightaway. So it's a big long oval track. And it's on the straightaways that it doesn't really test the merit of a driver. Everybody's got their gas pedal down, they're going straight, right? People don't really advance their position at a high level until they get into those turns at the end, right? That's when you're taking risks, right? You're speeding up and trying to pass people despite the fact the inertia is pushing your car out to the edge of the track. So you're trying to cut off at different angles, block out at different angles. And that's where the skill of a race car driver really shows up right there, is in the turns, right? Straightaways are longer and you spend more time in the straightaways, but it's those little turns at the end of the oval that really define the legacies. And in the real estate industry, and really the general economy for that matter, since 2009, the economy is just moving up, 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 up. And real estate value has been going up, 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 up. So it's almost been 11, maybe even 12 years of straight increases in economic prosperity. And it isn't until 2020, due to this external force called the coronavirus, that we've actually seen a turn occur. So we are now moving into a turn, and this is where the strong in business will survive, right? They will use these 6 elements to increase their position, okay? And that's really crucial that we do that, and we become aware of that, because increasing our position and still protecting ourselves at the same time are very, very important. So what are they going to do? Well, let's start with those elements. Element number 1 is they're going to keep their head on a swivel. So we always keep our head on a swivel. So we have to pivot the way we think. We have to shift our thinking, change our thinking. And I like to use the word pivoting because we're still in place, but we're going to pivot and look in a different area and try to be creative and progressive to figure out how we can change our normal activities, our normal routine, our normal way of doing business, and be innovative. And that's the key. A lot of people get frustrated by change and they like routines. The turns aren't good for you, right? The turns are tough. So you're gonna have to say, hey, you know what? I've gotta try to get uncomfortable until I can get comfortable again, because to succeed, you're gonna have to change in a big, big way if you want to come out of the turn and have your position advanced and be in a better position on the next straightaway. So keeping your head on a swivel and being aware of different ways of looking at things, different contexts, different perceptions, different ways to generate business, different ways to save money, different ways to conduct business. In real estate, you're seeing people go to virtual listing conversations, virtual showings, virtual buyer consultations, embracing different systems and processes for accomplish those things. We're seeing virtual notaries, virtual appraisals, things like that, all different, uncomfortable, have to get used to it. And then you're also seeing other people out there say, hey, don't even show property, don't take any listings, put everything on hold, and if you don't do that, then you're a bad person because you're spreading the disease. Despite the fact that we're doing it totally safely. Everything's virtual, we don't have to have any face-to-face anything, and everybody stays in their own home. So you're seeing some people just say, I refuse to shift, but what you're doing is you're letting these other people advance their position because they are still working, they are still earning a living, but they're still being safe and in compliance with all safety and governmental rules and laws out there. And I think that's really important to be aware of right now, and to hold that business practice so that we are in a position where we can look and keep our head on that swivel and pivot and see what other people are doing and really keep our ears open to learn and advance that position in this turn. Okay, element number 2 is step on the gas, right? We need to step on the gas, which means we're gonna have to work harder. There's no way about it. Work-life balance has its place, it does, and it should be most of our lives. And I'm a big believer in it. But we're not in the straightaway anymore. We're in a turn, okay? So most people and most race car drivers slow down in the turns and play cautious, okay? People's routines get upside down. Imagine people are working from home, kids are at home, both spouses are at home. All of that is gonna slow us down and be an excuse not to do work, right? But unfortunately, now's the time to roll up the sleeves. This is when it's hard. This is when we got, it's gonna be harder to get income, harder to bring in commission revenue. So it's very important we actually double down and spend more time on lead generation and conversion activity to either close business now during this time or at least pipeline it so we have a lot of business waiting when we are able to show property and list property easily and normally again at the end of this so we can quickly get income to make up for what we'd lost. So now is the time when heroes and legacies are really made. So now is the time to work, okay? So this is when we balance to the work side of the work-life balance and we move over in that area and put a lot of time. We have conversations with family and loved ones and we devote the time and we just work a lot harder right now. There's no way about it, right? Okay. Element 3, the third element of surviving a recession is lighten your weight. Just like a light race car, we got to keep it light and fast. We don't want to run with too much gas or too heavy materials so that we can easily maneuver and adapt in the tours, right? In the turns. So understand, this is where we want to sit down and calculate how much our operating expenses are over the course of the next few months to get through this thing, right? Whether it's 2 months, 5 months, you can do worst case scenario. I would like to do 5 months right now, depending on how long this lasts. I hope it doesn't last that long, but see how much it takes to keep your household and your business going at the current rate of monthly operating expenses. Add those all up. Let's say it's $20,000 a month. That's a lot. Let's say it's 5 months. That's 20,000 times 5, it's $100,000 we're gonna need to have in cash reserves to make it through it if nothing else changes. If we don't have that in cash reserves, then we need to think about tightening the belt and cutting some expenses, and or we need to talk to some people that might be sources of capital for us, right? So we can be talking to credit unions, home equity lines of credit, family members that have money they could possibly loan you short term. People like that, so we have money in an emergency situation later. We want to secure that because if this thing does run deeper and the recession does run deeper, there's a burn rate on capital. It's harder and harder to get as we go deeper and deeper in. So secure it now. Get the line of credit now. Get the agreement from the family member now. Do what it takes to identify those sources, secure those sources, and make sure that as we go deeper into this thing, we've got them, okay? So again, lighten your weight is element number 3. Element number 1 is keep your head on a swivel. Number 2 is step on the gas. Number 3 is lighten your weight. And number 4, the fourth element to surviving a recession is change your routine, okay? Just like if you're behind in a race, right? Or you're ahead in a race. You're going to change the way you race based on your position, right? If you're behind in the race, you have to quickly drive urgently and almost in a panic to get caught up. So you're going to change your whole strategy. If you're far ahead, you might drive more cautiously and protect your position around the turn so people can't pass you, right? So you have to adjust and quickly change your normal routine in this turn, right? And that means we're going to have a new schedule, But it's still important to have a routine, but you're just gonna have to quickly change it. And then we're gonna get a quickly new schedule that you're gonna have to stick to, because we can't operate in chaos. Almost all of our schedules have been totally wrecked, right? I mean, I'm at home, we have kids at home, my wife's at home, she works, we both homeschool the kids, and we try to work out, and all that's all out of whack, and it's brutal. But now we've quickly kind of adjusted into, and we found a routine. So we both have calendars, we switch off for each other, we know when we're watching the kids, we know when we're exercising, we know when we're working. So it's a new routine. Is it totally comfortable yet? Oh no, it's terribly uncomfortable. And it'll likely be uncomfortable for a while, but sooner or later it's gonna snap and get comfortable, because we have a routine. Now, if we didn't have a routine, a new routine, it would just be straight up chaos, right? And chaos never gets comfortable, and it's never productive, and it never gets us the results we want. So again, don't allow yourself to just kind of float around out there in the crazy drama around you and get all caught up in news channels and all the nuts, and not be productive and not advance your position in this turn, okay? Change your routine, change your urgency, and we can actually advance our position in the turns, right? Okay, key element of a recession number 5 is communicate with your crew, right? Just like your pit crew, and having a radio to your pit crew, so you guys are on the same page as how much gas you need to get through this, and when our tires are gonna get changed, and when we're gonna come into pit, and when we're not gonna get into pit. You need to work with your people, right? Whether it's your clients, we should be, doing virtual meetings with our clients much more often than we used to. It should be at least every week with our active listings and our buyers, possibly even more than that, right? You should be talking to your lenders on a weekly basis. Have a schedule at a certain day and a certain time. Don't just wait for problems to come up, because then we're never going to move forward with getting better. We're only just going to be addressing problems back on our heels, never forward onto the balls of our feet, where we can actually change processes and systems and move forward, right? If you are working with an organization, if you run an office or a team, man, you should be having regular meetings. I would say do them daily, very short meetings every single day on different, video conferencing systems like Uber Conference or Zoom, so that you're meeting every day, even if it's for like 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Because right now, during a recession, it's a roller coaster of emotions, man. People are up and down. People have family members losing jobs. People get sick. People know people getting sick. There's all these terrible things that happen that are outside the norm when you're in the turn. And it's very important to keep your people close, because they need you as a leader to keep them up. You need to know where they are. They need to know as their business is changing and they have to do everything differently. They need to learn from other people's mistakes and issues so that they can preventatively avoid them when they come to them too. So keep them close, meet often, right? So we have to increase the meeting rate, do that through virtual conferences, do not isolate during this thing. Physically, yes, but we can use technology nowadays to be very, very positive and meet and stay in close conversation with our members of our crew. So again, number 5 is communicate with your crew, right? Number 1, keep your head on a swivel. Number 2, step on the gas. Number 3, lighten your weight. Number 4, change your routine. Number 5, communicate with your crew. And the last element to surviving a recession, number 6, is establish your boundaries, right? Just like race car drivers know that their car size and the speed, in which tight spaces they can fit through and fit into, and how quickly they can close a gap in between cars, because they know the car's dimensions and they know its quick acceleration. They know the boundaries of the car, the limits of the car, right? Well, we need to establish and know our boundaries as well too. And since we're living at home now, we've even changed our physical environment, it's really important that we understand that with those boundaries, we're going to have to be able to fit into really tight spaces at home as well too. And that's going to be pretty tricky for us, right? Because now we've got family members that are, all over us. We got kids playing with us. We got husbands and wives in the same place. So we got to have conversations with them and tell them, hey, I'm going to have to work longer hours. I'm going to have to dig down really deep right now, much deeper than I ever have before. I'm going to have to work a lot harder than I ever have before. I'm going to have to work in this space, and I need you to be in this space at that time. I'm going to work out and do my physical exercise here in this way at this time. So we're going to have to actually use our routines to help develop that balance so that we establish the boundaries of all around us, right? That way all your team members too, your coworkers, same thing. We're gonna have to establish when they're supposed to work, how much urgency we're supposed to do things now, what they're expected to do and what they're not expected to do. So a lot of communication about the boundaries of our home work life, because now we're bringing that home with us. And since we're all oftentimes working from home now, and then of course also our work life, what we expect of the people that work with us now, because that's changed all of a sudden too. So a lot of communication and dialogue to establish those boundaries of when we're working and when we aren't, so everybody's okay with those. When we're working from home, there tends to be a lot more working like after hours and on weekends now, because there aren't set hours from 9 to 5 when we work. And that's okay, and that's probably what's needed in this environment to survive the turn. However, make sure everybody knows it, make sure everybody's aware of it, and make sure everybody agrees with it before we start just doing it and assuming, okay? That's why we have these team meetings, that's why we set boundaries, and that's why we change routines. We have discussions about them as well too. So I hope that helps you. Those are our 6 key elements of surviving a recession. Again, keep your head on a swivel, step on the gas, lighten your weight, change your routine, communicate with your crew, and number 6, establish your boundaries. I hope this helps, guys, helps you survive and win this race. And we'll all make it through the turn, because welcome to the turn. We're in it, but if you adopt these principles, we're going to make it out the other side, advance our position just fine. Thanks again.